Greetings, brothers and sisters. Got a bunch of things to get to like every day. I'm going to start here with Alec Baldwin. One of my viewers saved an explanation that she said was insane for Britney Spears about her brain damage, her brain damage. So we get to that. A bunch of stuff to do with the election. That's where I'm going to start first. Then there's Kanye saying his mom was sacrificed, Illuminati blood sacrifice. We'll get to that. Bunch of stuff. But like I said, let's start with the election stuff first. Here's Alec Baldwin. And he, from the archives, they have an archives of their pretentious photos with professional photographers. I think it's Hilaria more than him. She's obsessed with taking these high-level photos. But Alec had this to say: "This Tuesday is your chance to serve your country. If you don't vote, someone else decides for you." This Amy Sedaris, thank you. Cheryl Hines, yes, vote. Christina Executorton for hearts. Red, 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 red. Vote red. Drummer Chicky. But anyways, this is what Alec had to say.
I know that many people are chiming in about the election coming on on Tuesday, and I wanted to add my voice to that. I think that
he's going full Gumby, right? Joe Scarborough, Gumby Joe is the original Gumby, but there's other people now sporting the Gumby do. And Alec looks like a homeless guy just got into a suit. I mean, I showed you that other video. He's looking more and more homeless, and he could be soon.
I never dreamed in my lifetime that I would see such a wide band of a party of one of the two, what people consider legitimate parties, or more. I don't like that word. It should be two popular parties. People identify mostly as Democrat or Republican. To see such a wide band of that party subvert the integrity of the electoral process and say that not only that the previous votes were null and void and they were rigged and they were fixed and so forth, but that future votes, and as many people have commented, the votes that we lose are fixed.
What I'm going to focus on in this video is the left-right paradigm, that they're both a part of the same thing. And somebody left a great comment. I'm going to get into Carrie Lake and Republican delusionment, the so-called right-wing truthers who aren't truthers at all, right? This whole thing. Again, I've said it so much. I'm going to get into how Trump he goes after DeSantis, so I'll get into all that stuff. But we're going to start with Alec first. And, I think he believes what he's saying here. I don't know. He's an actor who, I don't care. But plenty of people do. And that's how messed up it is. Both sides think that their side is the only side that's not capable of cheating. It's stupid, right? Once there's cheating, there's cheating. You can't win when people are cheating, right? You either have to cheat yourself or you have to catch them cheating. But both sides would cheat. Politicians just want to win. And what he's saying here is that only the Republicans are questioning the results of elections and previous elections and future elections, and they only do it when they lose. Well, this is what Hillary did, right? Hillary threw election integrity, the elections under the bus when she whined about the Russians. She had a 2-to-1 advantage in terms of money, and she didn't win, so she was all over the elections being rigged. And then there was this documentary, which I covered, called Kill Chain, which is on HBO, that said all electronic voting machines could be rigged. And it was this idea that the Republicans were going to do it. It was a liberal, so it's good to watch because they admit to a lot of things that now they're not, saying are true. And then, of course, there was Stacey Abrams after her. And Stacey Abrams, I showed you, in either the last video, I think it was the last video, was whining about election fraud and election suppression of votes and these things, right? And they don't need to do any of that because they can rig the machines. The machines are easy to hack. But both sides have said these same things, right? And Alec is saying only the Republicans are saying it. The Republicans are saying only the Dems are saying it, right? Or whatever it is, right? Back when it happened before, this is the Republicans saying, "Oh, you guys are election deniers," and now it's flipped. But they both say the same things, right? They both do the same stuff. Like, you just have to understand that. They both engage in the same behaviors. When they lose, yeah, the elections are fraudulent. When they win, oh no, it was a fair and clean vote. Why are you an election denier? They both engaged in those same exact behaviors.
And the only result that's a valid result is the one that puts us in office. Now, we cannot let that deter us. I do believe that there are still some, maybe they're not as noisy, maybe they're a bit more muted in their opinions, but I still believe that there are a significant number of Republicans who maybe they want lower taxes, maybe they want less regulation on their business. They don't give a damn about social policies. They don't have a position on abortion for other people or LGBTQ issues. They don't care. They're just real fiscal conservatives, and they seem to be the quiet ones now. And everybody else who's a Republican who's screaming at the top of their lungs that the only valid result is the one that puts them in office is just horrifying. That's really horrifying.
Is it as horrifying as shooting a coworker? Right? Like, what are you talking about, bro? The savage thing here is he has 22,770 likes. There in the bottom left corner. There are people who actually listen to this guy. Just not in terms of his presentation, the fact that he's an actor, and his whole life blew up, and he's got a wife who said that she was from Spain but grew up in Boston. She's from Boston, Spain, and doesn't know how to pronounce pickle, even though she grew up in America her whole life, right? How you say, I'm not pickle, cucumber, right? And so the guy has been, completely played out. And this is how he got in trouble in the first place. This is what brought him to my attention. He's going to get into the obsession with Trump here in a moment. But people are listening to this guy, right? And they're digging what he says. Like he's a teacher to them, or somebody who's gives them inspiration and affects their point of view and how they see the world. Like, that's how sad it is out there. I mean, we know, people voted for Herschel Walker, and they voted for Fetterman Smash. And so, I mean, that's all you need to know, right? The political process, people will vote for almost anything you throw out there as long as they say things you want to hear and they're not the other side.
Which only makes it imperative that the people who are Democrats, independents, and so forth, or even Republicans who feel that Trump is a madman. I mean, we have a taste in this country of what other countries have gone through. Despots who've taken over and governed by fear and used fear as a stick to wrangle people with. The election is Tuesday. If you haven't voted already, please go and vote, because I think that the Democratic Party has a lot of things they need to look inward and to address, but the Democratic Party is capable of that introspection. The Democratic Party is capable of that self-criticism. They don't always do it. They don't do it as much as I'd like them to do. Very difficult in this political culture to admit when you're wrong. And the other side will just use that against you. But at least the Democrats in my lifetime have been capable of that self-criticism that the Republicans are just, it's not even on the table. You never hear the Republican Party admit that they were wrong. Never. That's the rule. To be a Republican, you just have to imagine that everything is perfect and there's nothing else you could have done differently. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Republicans in my lifetime are destroyers. They can tell you ad nauseum what they're against. They don't have any ideas to fix problems like homelessness and climate change and health care and so forth. I mean, all of the problems that have been dogging us now for 30 years or more. The Republicans never have any ideas of how to fix that, never. And the Democrats might have bad ideas, but their attempts at trying to solve the problem. The Republicans make things easy for themselves. You can't criticize their policies when they don't have any policies.
I could have jumped in there several different times, right? But I just let him, do that whole little bit there. And it goes on from here. It's even more of the same thing. His inability to self-perceive. Because the Democratic Party has been one thing ever since 2016. Really 2015, but they didn't think it would happen. And that is the anti-Trump party. That's all they've been. They're 100% anti-Trump, and they are, incapable. And not that the Republicans suck, and they're both, again to the whole thing. They're both apart. They're connected. There's no division here. It's one thing, right? It's not two things. It's one thing. I have a whole thing to do about that. But the Democratic Party in the news has been just fear of Trump. He's, everything he said here, all they've been is fear of Trump and hatred of Trump and the Trumpers and the MAGA Republicans. That's all they've been, right? For the past 5 years. What is it, 7 years now? And when Trump goes, they have nothing, right? They have literally nothing. Jojo Magoo had the Senate and the House of Representatives. He had the legislative body was all Dems. They had the Republican Supreme Court hand them this wonderful thing on abortion, which I'll get into in a moment for them. It was a gift. The only reason that there wasn't a red wave was because of abortion. And, people just being tired of whining about the elections, which I'll also get into later on when I talk about the Republicans. But the Democrats don't have anything. Like they could loot money just like the Republicans can loot money. But that's all that's left right now. You're not going to solve any of these problems. You're not going to fix any of these things, right? The country is, bankrupt, is beyond bankrupt. There's not enough money to fix all these things. There's just looting what's left, right? And I said that before the, previous election between Trump and Biden. But for him to come out and say that the Democrats have ideas, yeah, they have one idea, and that is to go out and talk about Trump. That's their one idea. And it's worked, right, for whatever reason. But it's not,
They don't have any policies. They are destroyers, they're critics, they're editors. They sit back and watch other people put forth the ideas and then just sit there and go, no. And we all know people like that as well. So they've all gotten together and formed a party called the Republican Party. Now, to everybody who's a Republican, who's not a Trump nutbag, then I apologize. I'm not trying to cast all Republicans in one net, just the Trump nutbag wing of the party. So remember that the Trump nutbag wing of the party is going to try to take over the positions that control elections in many of the states in this country, like Nevada. There's been a big issue there with, I guess, the Secretary of State of the state of Nevada. And people are going to start to rig elections and legitimize them and pass laws to legitimize that effort in many states if we don't step up on Tuesday.
So in case you forgot, just a second ago, well, not a second, like a minute ago in his whatever it was, he said that the Republicans are just fear-based. All they do is use fear to, run their political platform. I'm not going to replay it, but you guys heard it. And you can go back and play it if you missed it, but, why would you? Anyways, he just said it. And now he just said, if you don't step up and vote, the Republicans are going to rig elections, right? And then he said that they're about election deniers, and if the Republicans win, they're going to rig elections, right? And so that is a fear-based approach to getting people to vote. If you don't vote, the Republicans are going to, most of the people are watching him live in blue states, I would assume. And most of his, I don't know what his fan base comes from. And, they're probably, I don't know. Who's to say? But the hypocrisy, Alec.
Election day is Tuesday, November 8th. Please get out and vote to help demonstrate that the majority of voters, because we have a chasm maybe between the population and those that actually vote, that a majority of voters in this country believe that there's still a chance for democracy, even in this country. We've been crying out for decades that we want to import democracy hither and yon, but we don't have much of a democracy here right now. We have one, but it's sick. And if these guys get into power, they're going to pull the plug on it. They're going to euthanize it. So, anyway. Vote on Tuesday.
It's great the way he described the Republicans at the beginning. And then he went on to offer no policy changes. Nothing on policy. Nothing that the Democrats were going to do if they won. Because they're not. Like, they couldn't get it done before, and now they've lost the House. And so they're not going to get it done now. And they didn't get it done. It's the first 2 years of a president's term is when they get things done. And he didn't. People are bummed. This country's, we're assed out. We're broke. And, there's nothing you can do when you're that much in debt. But anyways, he painted a picture of the Republicans and, being fear-based and offering nothing. And then he just went into what the Democrats always do. He said, if these guys get it, they're going to pull the plug, these Trumpers. What are you talking about? They already were in power and they didn't pull the plug. He could have pulled the plug the first time, and he didn't. Trump was, in his Oval Office and licking his, wounds or whatever he's doing, pouring salt into his wounds about the loss. And he tweeted, what kind of way is this to run a country? Like, he was completely powerless, right? Trump is like, we'll get into Trump in a bit. But this is both sides. All they have is the other side sucks. They don't have solutions. They tell you a bunch of stuff, boilerplate stuff. And then they either rev up the hatred, fear, or anger towards the other side. That's all our politics has become. Okay, so we're going to come back to Alec, and he's so depressed here. He's just low energy, and he's trying to sue his way into rebranding himself. And then Hilaria has this bizarre photo I just noticed on her. While I was editing this, I thought I'd see if there was anything, that went along with what Alec was doing. And her podcast is now up, so I haven't checked it out yet, but I'll do something on that. So we'll come back to the Baldwins, but I want to do the election stuff first. So somebody wrote me, I have a great comment I'm going to get to in a moment. Then I'm going to read the Britney Spears stuff because it's been deleted, but somebody sent me all the stuff, and I haven't read it yet, but, it's always, funny with Britney. And then I'm going to get into Trump and then back to all this other, celebrity stuff. And I got something from Jojo Magoo because he's taken on the chin, too. Like, people are over Trump and Biden. But it's still, there's nothing better. There's not been a real likable, credible candidate. Like, Trump was different, but he wasn't a good candidate, right? He isn't a good man. I liked him as a character like I like, eccentric things. But, he wasn't a quality president. But I got a couple of comments. One that I thought I saved. It doesn't matter because I can paraphrase it here. And the person says, I know that both sides of this are, part of the thing, but one side seems to be better than the other side. And, in terms of Republicans and the Democrats. But that's not the right way. That isn't the truth of what it is. They're both one thing. They're parts of one thing. They're not two sides, right? So let's say there was two parties. And both parties there was no liberal and conservative. So there wasn't a division between, and these are just arbitrary categories that they've created, right? That there are people out there who want progress. so-called progress. Sometimes the progress is good, sometimes it's not. And then there's people who just want to keep things the same. They don't want change, right? And both parties sort of have that in them, but that's how it's built, right? The Democrats are for progress, and the Republicans are for let's bring back the good old days. Let's keep things the way they are, status quo. And that's how they run it, country by country. And they call it whatever it is, liberals and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans. But let's say there was two parties, and they didn't have that, right? And the parties didn't always disagree on issues. There weren't these issues like abortion or, any number of things that are, abortion's the kind of a big one, but all the things that Republicans and Democrats disagree on. Let's say that there wasn't this, division, and it was just slight differences, right? And it wasn't like the city people always vote for the Democrats and the country people would always vote for Republicans, all these things. The southern people would vote for Republicans, and the northern, people would vote for the Democrats. It wasn't like any of that, right? If it was like just two middle-of-the-road parties, no one would participate, right? Nobody would, and they wouldn't be able to get as much support. They wouldn't be able to raise money. They wouldn't be able to, there would be almost no political system like we see, this huge monstrous system of money raising and ads, and corporations wouldn't be able to buy politicians either. It would be, because they just get a new one, right? Because the other side would, there wouldn't be such a difference between the way people viewed things politically, right? Like each candidate would have their own sort of point of view. It would be more folksy and natural, and not hoaxy. More folksy. So if there wasn't such an oppositional force, then you wouldn't be able to raise money, right? It's the same thing like, Ohio State versus Michigan, or, the Patriots versus pretty much anybody, or the Yankees versus the Red Sox. It's the hatred of the other side. It's the disdain for the other side that drives it. The idea that the other side is evil and your side is good, that drives this political beast. And anything incorporate anything that goes on. It's the idea that there's a good guy on one side and a bad guy on the other side. It's what makes movies interesting. It's what makes TV shows. And you're rooting for somebody to succeed, who you identify with, who's your protagonist, right? But it's the oppositional side, the evil that they face, that drives the market. And that's why they celebrate each other, right? These people meet behind closed doors, and they, there's a, maybe not as much as it used to be, but they both, whether they realize it or not, their whole, system, their whole wealth, their whole power depends on the other side having an enemy. If they don't have an enemy, then there's no political system. Nobody cares about. There's no drama, right? And so they're part of the same thing. It's just that you identify with one side or the other, right? It's just like with the QB stuff, where you go get your little QB decoder ring, and you would go and, get a Q drop and a lemon drop, and try to figure out what's the coded word, because you're a part of it. You're going to help. You're a junior detective. You're going to solve the crime. You're going to help out, right? We need your help. Can't do it without you. You're important. You're not some slob. You're not some meaningless cog in the wheel. You're important. You're great. You're important. Go pull that lever. Go push that button. You're important. You go out there and push that button. No one can do it like you. You're the best. You just helped fight the crime. You're the greatest, right? And so that's how it is. They rope you in to think that you're a participant in it. And it's much better when you realize that it's almost like they're in a different dimension. I lived in my first homestead, and I was, I had a relationship. We had a relationship with a next door neighbor that we used to rent his pasture after he hated, and our cows would go in there, and there was good grass there that was left that grew a little bit after he hated, and he would hay in September. Like you get either 2 or 3 cuts of hay, and he would hay it, and there'd be some left over. And, I'd let my cows in there, and they would eat, because our pasture was pretty much done by that point because we had too many cows for our limited amount of grass. And, we talked once in a while. But all my other neighbors, it was like there was a glass between us like you see at a zoo. They were just different types of people. They, didn't have any connection with them, right? There's a, idea in the Sahaj Marg tradition, Master Charge, said that you can't have a conversation for more than 3 minutes with somebody who you don't have a past life with. And again, that wasn't official. Somebody told me that. And, I was thinking about that for years because that happens all the time. You'll see, like, there'll be people you can connect with that are significant in your life. And then there are people who are, not so much. And you talk to them, and within, a minute or so, you just want to break away. There's just nothing there. There's no connection. And so, there's just this level of disconnect between us and these people in the celebrity culture. That's why I call it the show, right? It's, it's a different form of reality, and it plays out in front of us. And so you're not a part of it. Like, they don't care about your opinion. You don't have any power. The people don't have any power. And it's just, this idea that one side gets really angry and then they win and then they get pacified. It's like a pressure cooker. That's how the political system works. It's just to keep you pacified and make you believe that you're participating in some way when you're not. And so then I got this sarcastic comment after that other comment. And this was just classic, right? I got to find it here. Let me just open it up. And then I can make it bigger. That's not it. For some reason, I opened up the wrong one. Here it is. Okay. And so I'll make this bigger. And the person writes this. Fetterman smash right now for President Sean Penn's, Oscar, and JoJo Magoo's. Keep on walking that tightrope, Paul. Keep making everybody feel like we are all nothing but crap. I don't make everybody feel that way. I don't make anybody feel anything. If you feel like you're crap, don't pin it on me, bro. Right? That's in you. That's inside you. Inside you, you feel like crap. My videos are somehow bringing that out in you. That's not my fault. Stop watching them then. Or go remove that part of you inside yourself that feels like crap. But don't pin this on me. And you're not talking for everybody. Keep on walking that tightrope, Paul. Keep on making everyone feel like crap, like we are all nothing but crap. Many people watch my videos and say, oh, they feel good after watching them, that they get angry. That just somebody else wrote a comment saying that they get angry when they listen to other people, but they don't. So it's not everybody. It's you and maybe some other people. No good guys, only bad guys. No good side, only bad sides, because that's the nature nowadays. Well, I didn't say that, right? I mean, most people are negative and going against the divine will. I mean, everybody to some extent. But what I'm talking about is the political process. This is what he's talking about. And the politicians are in a demonic system that has to do bad stuff to keep the system going, right? And that's, that's fact. And you can, I'm not fact that I can prove to you as a fact, but it's a fact. Like, you can go figure that out for yourself. That the system is demonic, and therefore you have to do demonic things. It feeds on evil, right? And so, person goes, only bad sides because that's human nature nowadays. People like, say, Carrie Lake couldn't possibly have a sliver of sincerity about her. Well, they all have a sliver. I mean, I didn't say no one has a sliver, but they're fake. I mean, I'm going to show you a clip of Carrie Lake in a second. Or let me just show you the clip of Carrie Lake here. And then we'll move forward from there. This is Carrie Lake. And I briefly talked about her before, but let's just watch this for a moment.
This state back? Are you ready to turn things around? We had a big day today, and don't let those cheaters and crooks think anything different. Don't
Those cheaters and crooks. She's not a cheater and crook. It's just everybody else is, right? Oh, that's not a Republican. Just the Democrats are. She has a very annoying voice, and she's a fake person. Like, you should be able to see this, right? I guess she was she used to be in the news media. And she's a Republican, and therefore not a truth teller, because both sides of the system make a whole. But just listen to her voice. The way that her cadence, her inflection, I mean, it's very hard to listen to. All these candidates are.
let them doubt. Don't let them put doubt in you. We have a movement. We have a movement, and we know it. Did you feel it? Did you feel that movement?
They didn't. Ooh, yeah, kind of, I don't know.
You know, I did a lot of praying to God. I've been praying to God every day, all day. And I said to him, you make this victory come whatever way you want. If it comes decisive...
But as long as you make sure it's a victory, God, you have one option here, and that's make it a victory. Because, if you don't, you're not God. So, I mean, only God would allow me to win the governorship. And it looks like she's going to lose, so how did God work? What are your feelings about God now?
On election day, then bring it to us that way. If we have to fight through the BS and the garbage, then we will fight through the BS and the garbage.
Woo! Fight through the BS and the garbage.
But how do you get fair and free elections? You have to fight and win to make them fair and free.
Wait, so you're going to fight and win in unfair elections? The elections are rigged, but you're going to win those elections? You got to fight and win those rigged elections? You don't really understand the idea of rigging something, right? We'll get back to this. This is important. This is the fallacy in it, right? You can't win a rigged election. That's why they rig it, right? Rig means that it is fixed in some way. The outcome is predetermined, and you have no control of it. How are you going to win that, right? We got to win these elections that are rigged against us not to win.
We needed another stark reminder that we have incompetent people running the show in Arizona.
They're either crooks and liars or they're incompetent. Which is it, right? Because they're not incompetent if they're stealing the election, and that's what they want to do. They're election stealers. They're not incompetent. Which is it?
Who is ready for a change?
Woo!
We had great patriots around this state show up today. It was so amazing. They showed up at the polls early.
She's really just hard to watch. And you should be able to see this is not a sincere, real, honest person. If she was a Democrat, you would be able to see it. And that's your own personal blind spot, your own prejudice. If this woman was a Democrat, you would say, oh, this is... If she was saying things that you didn't agree with and you didn't like, she had the Democratic label, you would see through her fakeness. You would dislike her the same way that you dislike Pelosi or Hillary or any of these other. I mean, she'd be different. She'd be a little bit, she'd be more liberal than her way that she was, but you can't see it. Like I can see her the same way that you can see, the hypocrisy with Hillary or Kamala or any of these other people. It's, many of us can, and you have a blind spot, right? Let's get back to the comment, though. I want to finish this thing up here. And so it says here, people say, like, Carrie Lake couldn't possibly have a sliver of sincerity about her. It's simply not possible that somebody might actually be noble enough to want to respond to evil with good? Good? ? That's absurd. There is no good outside the misfits of New Age consciousness, so nobody should do anything. And anybody who tries to side with timeless, universal, respected values has got to be fake. Got it. I didn't say any of that, right? That's what you heard. But you go back to this person saying, keep making everybody feel like we are all nothing but crap. You're feeling like you're nothing but crap is what happened here. Like you heard something that made you feel butthurt because you know it's true. You wouldn't feel it if it was fake. You wouldn't feel it if it was, if it was possible, right? Like this is you getting the reality that, and also what happened in the electoral process. It appears that Carrie Lake is going to lose, but even if she wins, nothing's going to change. And so Trump got rolled on election night. We'll get into his reaction in just a moment with DeSantis, which is like despicable, right? And so narcissistic. It just shows what Trump is. And we'll get back to that in a moment. But it's, this idea of election deniers, whatever you want to call them, that's what the Democrats call them. And the Trumpers got rolled. Trump got rolled, embarrassingly so. And they've demonized him for so long, but he just, I'm going to talk about him in a bit. He deserves everything the way that he went out, right? Because he betrayed his own people, because that's what they always do. Politicians aren't there for you. They want power. They're not there to save you. And so you have to believe in this hopium. I'll run the hopium thing when I'm done with this narrative. You cubies and whatever, is left of you. You have to have hopium because otherwise you can't function. You got to believe that the system can change and there are people out there to change it. And it's a corrupt system. And it's the lack of being willing to admit that our system is hurting not only the environment, the natural world, other species, the planet itself, but other people around the world who are, our wealth is predicated on their suffering. That's how a system like this works. Our lifestyle is based in us consuming other people's resources and exploiting people, so they can make our products because the currencies are undervalued in their countries. They're overpopulated countries, and they can have sweatshops to make cheap whatever it is, so that the people who sell these things can make a lot of money and provide for you, a margin of their lifestyle, right? And that's going to all disappear anyway. But the reason we have it so good because other people have it so bad. And when you're a rich person, that's your reality, and you have to at least admit that to yourself, that your privileges, your lifestyle is predicated on the suffering of other people. Our whole country benefits, and then people benefit on their own levels, right? But that's why it's a system there's rich people and there's poor people. There's winners and losers, and most of the people are losers. Most of the people are poor, and so that's how the system works. And you have some people have extravagant wealth, and they allow some other groups to act as a buffer between them and the masses, the mob, and that's what we are, the middle class, and that's our lot in life, right? But it's a rigged system, and it hurts everybody. And if you don't admit that, because you want to believe that the system's good, well, yeah, it's good. It's good when you have money, right? It's good it's good on a material level, but not spiritually. But you don't want to admit that, right? That's the problem with your reaction to my video. And what I'm saying here is, this person is that you believe that the system can be good, and it can't be, because it's not based in divine principle. It's not adhering to divine will and God's laws. And it's a system that feeds off greed and evil and selfishness and being disconnected from God and most of all deception, because it's all predicated on your belief that the system that money has value when it doesn't. It's debt. And so that's demonic. That goes against, only things that have value, right? And debt doesn't have value. It, has value if you hold the debt, right? If you, other people are indebted to you, then it has value to you. But it's just, it's a concept. It's not real. Debt is either you can make it through laws or through, social norms, and you say, oh, you owe me this. You owe me a debt, right? And then that's monetizable. What that person owes you is monetizable. If you can enforce it and you can get that other person to believe it, and then, you'd have like slavery, indentured servants that are working off their slavery, their student loans, their car loans, their house loans, because they believe they're in debt because of these contracts and whatever it is. They were given something and they say, all right, now you have to work it off, right? But it's only, because you agree to those principles. Like, you're not really in debt, right? Like, it's some sort of rigged system where they make lots of money off of interest, and you're getting something and then paying 5 times. You buy a house for $100,000. By the time you pay it off, you've paid $500,000 for it or whatever, right? Or even 120. Like, that's, like, how is that good? And that's the whole principle of the credit-based system. But anyways, let's move on to Trump here. So let me just show you the Charlie Brown hopium thing, because it applies to this commenter and all the people who are like that. Because you can't live in a world where you don't delude yourself into believing the system is something that it isn't. And the politicians that are lying to you are something that they're not.
Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night.
So first he takes a hit off the hopium pipe.
Pumpkin patch, and you'll see the Great Pumpkin with your own eyes.
And then he tries to get his bitch hooked on hopium.
Sitting in a pumpkin patch with a blockhead. You owe me restitution!
Then his bitch realizes she's in love with a hopium addict and she wants her Skittles. She's been cheated out of her Skittles. And now his sister, who sees that her hopium addict's brother is strung out on hopium, has to go and retrieve him from the pumpkin patch.
I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, too.
Stupid? What do you mean, stupid?
You sat in a pumpkin patch all night long waiting for a pumpkin man to rescue you. It's high on hopium, and he never came. That's what we mean by stupid.
Just wait till next year, Charlie Brown. You'll see. Next year at this same time, I'll find a pumpkin patch that is real sincere.
But after all the evidence has been presented that the great pumpkin, doesn't exist, is not going to save you, still in denial, lashing out, angry, waiting for the next hit off the hopium pipe. So the New York Post, which I look at every day, the New York Post at page 6, they are very pro-Trump and have been, they're very Republican. And I don't remember them ever saying anything bad about Trump. But clearly, after last Tuesday's election, they are over Trump, right? Don, who couldn't build a wall, had a great fall. Could all the GOP men put the party back together again? Trumpty Dumpty. So this is what he said about DeSantis. Trump demands average DeSantis duck 2024 run in post-midterm tantrum. So on Tuesday's vote, the political winds have shifted. I mean, they haven't shifted because the last 3 election cycles, the American people nationally have said they don't want Trump and they don't want his policies. And they don't want Trumpers. And, he took an absolute savage beating. Because people are over it, right? But it still doesn't matter. Nothing, it's just they're going to put other crappy candidates in there. But Trump has been great for the Democrats because of everything I've said. And now that he's been beaten soundly in the last 3 elections. And again, you can say it's rigged or whatever it is. Doesn't matter, right? This is the outcome. The elections are always rigged. It's a rigged system. And so this is what happened, right? Cheating, if somebody cheats and they get away with it, then that's what happens. They're the champion, right? And so he said this, Ron DeSanctimonious is playing games. The fake news asked him he's going to run for president if Trump runs, and he says, I'm only focused on the governor's race. I'm not looking into the future. And then he said, well, in terms of loyalty and class, that's not really the right answer because Trump thinks the guy should be loyal to him, right? Governor Ron DeSanctimonious, an average Republican governor with great public relations who didn't have to close up state, but did, unlike other Republican governors whose overall numbers for a Republican were just average, middle of the pack, including coven, and who has the advantage of sunshine where people from badly run states up north would rather go no matter who the governor was, just like I did. Ron had low overall bad polls and no money, but he said that if I would endorse him, he could win. I said, let's give it a shot, Ron. Well, I endorsed him. It was tough, to use a bad term. A nuclear weapon went off. Trump went on for there, but this is just him being narcissistic. And the reason why it's narcissism is because he's jumped the shark. Whatever Trump had is gone. Even his, staunch followers are beginning to doubt. And the reason it's gone, which I said in the last video, was, Operation Warp Speed, which was one of the worst things he could have done. I mean, other than some of these bogus wars, but still, maybe even worse than that. And then the way he handled not only the COVID thing, but the election thing. And, his last year in office, he got completely worked and rolled. But it was all the other things that he didn't stand up for. I mean, there's so much a liberal agenda that got passed through. They changed the definition of sex and gender and all these things. They changed the way words were used. I mean, all these things happened under Trump, and he gave no pushback. And, they pushed such a liberal agenda when he was president. And they haven't been able to push the same thing with Jojo Magoo, because it was the hatred of Trump that drove it, right? And the way he handled the election, the way he sold out his own people, all of it, it was embarrassing. Like he just, he went out like a punk, right? And he got punked by the Dems and, by Fox News and all of it. And he's, bitter about that, and he's running out of bitterness. And, people have moved on. And the Republican Party, which he doesn't care about, right? He cares about Trump, would be better off with DeSantis, because DeSantis has a lot of what Trump had, but he doesn't have as much of the negatives. And people have moved on from Trump, just like they moved on from Jojo Magoo. But Trump won't do that because he's out and out selfish. He's always been that way. And so that's, let's see if I have that video here from Jojo Magoo. But he's also here from political. Trump goes to war against DeSantis. He says here, News Corp, which is Fox, Wall Street Journal, and the no longer great New York Post, is all in for Governor DeSantis. And so, most of this is people talking about, Trump, getting rolled and worked, and, it's just time to move on, right? You had your time, and it's, it might be interesting, him and DeSantis, because, Trump will go scorched earth. He has to go scorched earth from the beginning. But then, whatever comes out of that and what the Democrats are going to do, I mean, the whole thing will be interesting, but in a way that's, watching something is like watching something die. That's, it's watching something collapse, right? It's watching something go bankrupt. It's watching something fold. That's the only, interesting part about it. It isn't watching something blossom. It isn't springtime. It's wintertime. So after I was done with the whole Trump thing, my YouTube app on my phone recommended this video about Kaylee McEnany.
State of Georgia on
Does
December
that include Trump?
I think he needs to put it on pause. Absolutely. Look, he'll make that decision. He'll make his own decision. But
does he go to
if
Georgia?
I'm advising any contender.
So she is saying that Trump should not go to Georgia. This is his former press secretary and one of the most pro-Trump people on the mainstream media.
DeSantis, Trump, whomever, no one announces 2024 until we get through December 6th.
Do you see the former president?
So she doesn't want Trump announcing until after the Georgia thing, right? He took such a beating.
A need for him to go to Georgia?
I think we've got to make strategic calculations. Governor DeSantis, I think he should be welcome to the state, given what happened last night.
That's
You got to look at.
So DeSantis is welcome in Georgia.
The realities on the ground, and Herschel Walker. We've got to win the Senate. That's it, guys. Got to win the Senate.
All right.
So not Trump. Trump's not welcome in Georgia. So she's even crapping all over Trump. I mean, it was a disastrous night for Trump. What I'm saying here about Trump, and that show Veep was so great because it was a Democratic vice president, but it just showed the political process and how selfish they all are. The selfishness the narcissism, right? I mean, it was funny, but it was also one of the best, it's over the top with its, it's sitcom, a lot of goofy stuff, But in terms of their, just her overall selfishness and the way the show ended even, where she threw everybody under the bus for her, her last political chance. And that's how these politicians are. They're all about themselves, right? And the way that, even Trump saying that New York Post called him Trumpty Dumpty, right? And, with him, and him saying even the great New York Post, because they used to be pro-Trump probably for years, they loved Trump as a businessman. And now they've turned on him after all this time, right? And, a wise, selfless, great politician and man would say, all right, my brand has been ruined. The country's over me, right? Everyone's over the whole thing. I still have some supporters, but our policies, the Republican Party, and we're fighting evil, and the Democrats are evil. Let me do the good thing here and step down and throw my sword behind DeSantis, because that's all that matters. Because, it's obvious that they've, this was a death knell to my political future. What happened when Jojo Magoo had a horrible year. He had a disastrous year. And only because the Republican-led Supreme Court decided this was the time to sabotage the midterm elections by doing the abortion ban, and all the Republicans celebrated, and then they got effed at the polls because 60% of Americans, and I'll show you this, like there's a great visual from Huffington Post I'll show you on abortion, which is effed up. But it was, at that time, the Supreme Court screwed the Republican Party because they, made that ruling, right? Which is, there's no accident there, right? That Trump would just say, okay, it's over for me. And even if I win, it's going to be a divided country. There'll be more hatred, more impeachments. It'll just tear the country apart. Like it would be, this would be the selfless thing to do. That it's more important that our policies get a chance. It's more important that the change we want to implement. And DeSantis has a much better chance of achieving all that, much better chance of winning, a much better chance of, he's just not tainted the way Trump is, right? And so Trump would say, this is a guy who's, he has a better chance of achieving the things that I think are important. But he doesn't give a F about those things. Boop. He doesn't give it a boop about those things, right? He doesn't care. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about the Republican Party. He cares about Trump. Trump's always been that way. And he's going out like that. He's going out the same like a punk, right? This is what a punk would do. Trump's a punk. He's always been a punk. And a humorous punk. I liked him as a character, but, and is ultimately, he self-sabotaged, right? One of my wife's Republican friends who really liked Trump was really pissed that he allowed this idea of him being friendly with white supremacists and these other things, that it was just not necessary. Because all Trump cares about is loyalty and people praising him. Like I said this, when you're a billionaire, you're surrounded with people, oh, Mr. Trump, hey, Mr. Trump. Watch The Apprentice. Oh, how great, Mr. Trump. Oh, what can I do for you, Mr. Trump, right? Like they're like kings. Billionaires are like kings, and they have a bunch of people that want their money, want their support, want their whatever, and then even more so as president. He's a billionaire president, and so, he wasn't used to the negativity that he got as president, and anybody that said anything negative about him, he turned on him and went scorched earth, and then, this is how he ends up, right? A man who's desperate to, reclaim the victory that he thought was, rightfully his, and, he's going out like this. This is Trump. This is how Trump always was. He wasn't there for you. Wasn't, this whole QB, hopium, all this stuff that went on. It just was an absolute joke. And the last point here is that he went after DeSantis right after the election. DeSantis had a big win, and the rest of the Republican Party folded, right? It underperformed. And all the Trumpers, all the, people that were were endorsed by Trump did particularly poorly. And so he had a bad night. He didn't go after JoJo Magoo. He didn't go after the Dems. He went after DeSantis. DeSantis was the only, sort of bright spot in the Republican Party. And that shows you Trump's selfishness. I mean, he could have waited. He could have waited. Like, he went after him because he can't restrain himself. He has no impulse control. And it was a bad move for him after he had a horrible night and DeSantis had a great night to go after DeSantis, right? I mean, he just looks, bitter and selfish. And, as this thing moves forward, all the media is going to be pro-DeSantis. I don't know about the left, but all the right-wing media, because they all know it's time to move on from Trump. And, everyone else kind of knows other than the pumpkin patch dwellers. All right, so let's move on to JoJo Magoo, because he got bad news of his own as well, which is great.
Let's check in with David Chalian, who's got some exit polling on Biden, on Biden 2024 swing state. David?
Hey, Anderson. Yeah, you guys are talking about that Georgia runoff that may or may not be consequential in just 4 weeks. President Biden, at his press conference this week, was asked about looking ahead 2 years, if indeed he's poised to get into a re-election battle. And we have a sense from voters in key battleground states this year about whether or not they would like to see Joe Biden run for re-election. So in Florida, do you want Joe Biden to run for president in 2024? Only 27% of Florida voters in this election said yes, 70% said no.
These are devastating numbers. I have to go low tech and record this with my phone now because YouTube TV, amongst other apps, now has some sort of a block towards screen flow, which sucks. And I'm going to make a separate small video about this, see if anybody has any solutions. I used to be able to go, if I was watching the news, and especially CNN, which I would leave my YouTube TV app on, and then I could get this, on my computer, which it would be better quality. But instead I had to do it with my phone, so it's a whole thing. But anyways, these are devastating numbers, and it's just not Florida.
Take a look in Michigan. Do you want Joe Biden to run for president? 28% said yes. Again, nearly 7 in 10, 68% of Michiganders in this election said no. Pennsylvania, you're going to see a trend here. 27% say yes, they want to see Joe Biden run for president again. 69% say no. And in Wisconsin, you see the same results. 28% of voters in Wisconsin want to see Biden run in 2024. 69% say no. Obviously, Biden won 3 of those 4 states. He did not win Florida in 2020, but he would need those battleground states.
See, the country wants to move on, right? Because the country's stupid. Like, they think there's something better, like I was saying in the beginning. And, when you're elected as a politician, you make promises and you create a vision and you can't deliver because they're not going to let you deliver. You make false promises that you can't deliver. And, the system and the other politicians, and even if you wanted to, you can't. And so that initial, hopium that people have of a known unknown entity, and then the person gets elected president and they don't deliver, and then people, whatever, they fade away. People who believe, people who are excited, and then it's just about, well, I still like this guy better than the other guy or the other party, and it becomes something like that. All the enthusiasm's gone, and Trump brought in a lot of enthusiasm, but now it's all gone. And I don't know if DeSantis will have that. Whatever that is, but he's still not going to deliver anything because, the system's completely, broken. But JoJo Magoo, on the other hand, he is completely effed, and so are the Democrats because they don't have anybody great. They don't have anybody that's, they'd have to have somebody come in and run against his presidency. They can't go with change and moving forward like they usually try to do, because they just had this dinosaur that they elected because they ran on Trump hatred. And, it'd be a disaster for them. No enthusiasm. And then, it'll be hard for them to even make a case that he could, possibly come up with all those various votes and, whatever it is. It's the way it all plays out. But the problem with this is, and the problem with the person who commented is that, and they made a a strong case that, you can see that the so-called election deniers did poorly. Because the people who vote don't like it when you tell them their vote doesn't matter. People who watch sports don't like it when you tell them that the sport is fixed. It ruins it for them. Like, I can watch sports looking at it like wrestling or any other show, because it's just something that's habitual for me, something I've done, on and off my whole life. But I can watch it with, out the sense that there's integrity, that there's no cheating. I don't, but people who watch these things and bet on them, even worse, when you question the integrity of the thing they love, they go off. That's why the person commented, because people invest in, this is a way change can happen. And it's not, right? There's some change, minor changes, but the system itself is, it's a bad system. And we're all 100% dependent on it. And I say that over and over again, and that sucks. Like, there's no way to make that good, that you're dependent on an evil system. There's no way to make that into something positive, right? At least on the material level, because you're dependent on something, you enjoy something that is ultimately evil. And so, that's our situation, and you can reconcile it or deny it or do whatever you want with it. I don't care, but it's the truth, right? And once you realize it's just a sucky truth that everyone has to live with. All right, with that, let's I'm not going to do the Britney thing right here. I'm going to go back to Alec P. Baldwin and Hilaria P. Baldwin, and then I'll do the Kanye thing, and then we'll maybe go back to Britney. Okay, so I want to go back to Alec J. Baldwin, but I realize I missed something. There's so much, there's so much to make fun of. There's so much to mock, and I'm only one person, right? But he actually said this.
To wrangle people with. The election is Tuesday. If you haven't voted already, please go and vote, because I think that the Democratic Party has a lot of things they need to look inward and to address, but the Democratic Party is capable of that introspection. The Democratic Party is capable of that self-criticism. They don't always do it. They don't do it as much as I'd like them to do. Very difficult in this political culture to admit when you're wrong. And the other side will just use that will just use that against you. But at least the Democrats in my lifetime have been capable of that self-criticism that the Republicans are just, it's not even on the table. You never hear the Republican Party admit that they were wrong. Never. That's the rule. To be a Republican, you just have to imagine that everything is perfect and there's nothing else you could have done differently. And
so somehow I missed that, but Alec P. Baldwin had the cojones to say that the Democrats at least can admit they're wrong. They can look inside and do some self-reflection. And, like he's Alec Baldwin, he shot a coworker and then claimed to be a victim, blamed everyone else but himself, right after his wife got caught using a fake accent. She grew up in America and is pretending to be Spanish. And, people have known about this for a while, but it broke nationally. It was a major scandal. And she's still using the accent. And he's not only still playing the victim, but let's go to the lawsuit thing here. Alec P. Baldwin sues to clear his name in Rust movie set killing. The actor is suing the people involved in handling and supplying the loaded gun that he was using when it fired, killing cinematographer Helmut Hetz on set. Notice how they said "and fired," like not that it was. He pulled the trigger. But anyways, let's go to this this wonderful moment with George Stephanopoulos.
So you have this Colt 45. You just pulled.
The hammer as far back as I could without cocking the actual.
And you're holding on to the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing. I go, how about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes off.
Boom, the gun goes off. Alec P. Baldwin, it's not his fault. Guns just go off. Also here from page 6, Alec P. Baldwin files lawsuit for Rush shooting, accuses crew of negligence. Alec Baldwin sued the armorer and multiple crew members from Rush for negligence after they handed him a loaded gun on the set, resulting in the death of the film's cinematographer Halna Hutchins. The actor went after 4 crew members, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, Dave Halls, the guy who handed him the gun, Sarah Zachary, and Seth Kinney for failing to maintain safety on the set. This tragedy happened because live bullets were delivered to the set and loaded into the gun, his lawyer said. Gutierrez-Reed failed to check the bullets of the gun carefully. Halls failed to check the gun carefully and yet announced the gun was safe before handing it to Baldwin. And Zachary failed to disclose that Gutierrez had been acting recklessly off the set and was a safety risk to those around her. And he added that Baldwin seeks to clear his name and hold the defendants accountable for their misconduct. And so this guy who just went out and said that Republicans don't have the ability to admit they're wrong and self-perceive thinks that he's going to win back public favor by suing employees of his, because he was producing the movie, right? Like, what? He's going to sue a 25-year-old armorer that he hired and, with very little experience to a low-budget movie, and he shot somebody. He held a gun and shot somebody, and he's suing, right? To clear his name. He thinks this is going to clear his name. He thinks winning this lawsuit is going to detoxify him. It only makes it worse, right? He looks like a bully, totally not taking responsibility for it. Just an absolute fool. Like, he thinks this is going to win. He thinks this is a good strategic move, and his name's going to be cleared if he wins these lawsuits. In a gun that he fired, he said Halls didn't check it to see if it was safe, but Gutierrez-Reed said to Halls that it was safe, right? And so that's the same thing that Alec did. Like, Alec should have checked the gun himself, right? And, actors came out and said he should have and all these things. But he thinks this is going to be good for him, suing these people. Like, this is like a total inability to self-perceive. Speaking of which, an inability to self-perceive. She has all these various types of, photographer-based photographs, right? And so she's making this look. She has all kinds of posing looks that she does. She's got a cat. It says cat check, coffee check, baby check. She's nursing her baby, and she's mainlining caffeine right into her system, into the baby's, body through her breast milk. She's just so clueless, right? And so when I saw this, I realized her Witches Anonymous. Here it is here. Witches Anonymous. There's their podcast. So this is, I guess, a podcast for former witches that used to be witches who, like Alcohol Anonymous, right? Is this, are they currently witches? What's going on here?
And we are constantly being told that we signed up for something, or just like our mere presence is asking for something. One of the things I think.
Hey, witches, join our coven, a safe space where we can lean on each other and share the magic. Check out our debut episode on Witches Pod out now. A variety of my viewers said I need to check this out because it's really bad. But they got the witch up here in front of the moon. They both look like they, quality witches. That might explain Hilaria's ability to cast a spell on herself and lose the ability to pronounce the word pickle in her native language, in her her first language, which is English.
Most of us have come to terms with is walking down the street, and if a man says something to us, we didn't ask for it. It doesn't matter what we're wearing, how short our skirt is, what kind of heels we're wearing. It's not okay. As women, we are constantly being told that we signed up for something, or
see, the reason to have a podcast is you either have a talent or ability, or you're funny, or you have something interesting to say, right? Not because you're a celebrity or a celebrity's wife. And what she was saying there about, this idea that women are asking for it, like, this has been fleshed out. We all understand the point that if men come on to women sexually or make inappropriates to women, despite what they're wearing, despite what vibe they're giving out, despite what they're doing on their end. If men comment to women, they're not asking for it. We understand the point, right? Whether people agree with that or not doesn't matter. It's been said. It's been said over and over again. But somehow when she does it, it's always worse, right? Like, she takes something remedial, stupid, and sucky and then makes it worse. Like, she just, classic cliche type of topics, right? And she's so passionate about it. Like, she's getting to the party 7 years Me Too late. And this is what she's trying to sell you. These are the two. That's the first one. There's another one here that she's put on this Instagram page that she's trying to sell you as a way to watch her show. Like, it's so compelling what she's saying. These are the promos. These are supposed to lure you in to go for more.
We're going to, be really open about our own experiences. I'm going to talk about stuff I've never talked about before because you're not supposed to.
Name one thing you're going to talk about that you're not supposed to. Any kind of subject, right? Because that's not possible. You're not that deep, right? Like, everyone says, oh, yeah, this is going to be, Chris Cuomo says, I'm a free agent. I'm going to go where no man has gone before. Yeah, you guys, you're in the narrow bandwidth of what's socially acceptable. She did one good thing. This was before the whole scandal. She talked about the emotional pain of her miscarriage, and she got a lot of pushback from, abortion people because, she's around those types of liberal people. Don't want you talking about how how a miscarriage is painful because it makes, it links to abortion being emotionally painful. And she said that one thing. That's the only thing she's done that's controversial. That was a good thing. That wasn't a bad thing. But, other than that, she doesn't have anything, right? The internet's full of people talking about things that they're not supposed to talk about, right? Kyrie Irving, these things. You're going to talk about the vaccine. What are you going to talk about, Hillaria, right? You're going to talk about the bullying you receive and how unfair it is for you and your husband and how wrong everybody else is. That's going to be your show.
Before I got together with Alec, I would judge women and men that had big age differences. Like, Alec and I are on all the lists of the celebrities with the biggest age difference and stuff like that. I would look at it and be like, okay, this older man wants some young bimbo with no opinions whatsoever. And then that younger woman.
Well, you have opinions, right? You're only half right. You're only half right in your own situation.
And then that younger woman is obviously a gold digger. And now that I'm in that relationship and people will say those things about me regularly, I realize I'm like, oh my God, what was this trained into my head? And why was I so judgmental?
You judged, you experienced, and you learned.
Wow, that's painfully bad, right? So is that other woman like a witch or a therapist? And she's got to restate everything Hilaria states, right? And Hilaria's like, well, I used to look at these older men with younger women, and I used to call them bimbos with no opinions and gold diggers, but now that I'm one, I realize how judgmental I was. And she thinks that's interesting enough to be on a podcast. But this is great right here. I didn't see the comment till I was editing. Michelle, you don't have any ancestry linking you to an actual victim of the Salem witch trials. That must be the other person. It's not that hard to look up family trees on the internet. Hillary just lies naturally. This podcast is an affront in general. So why do you continue to plan to work on this podcast? Are you bored? Are you feeling entitled? What is it? Stop it. Right? Join their coven. All right, so a variety of people sent me this. Kanye West comes out here and says that his mother was an Illuminati sacrifice. And, I used to cover this quite a bit. Illuminati blood sacrifices. There are so many famous people who have lost a loved one right before they made it big or went to that next level as a celebrity. And so I used to think it was some sort of group of people that then the person had to, there's this whole thing about them having to sacrifice somebody. And I don't believe that anymore. Even after Kanye says this, people are taking this as confirmation. Let's listen to it, then I'll explain what I think about it.
Right? I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God. That's the only person that I serve. My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
His mama was sacrificed. That would mean he served her up to be sacrificed for his fame.
Me too. You understand?
Yeah, I appreciate
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You know, out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize.
You know, he's saying that, but he's not admitting that he had anything to do with it. So that would, people are thinking he's admitting to something he's not. So since making this, I have just read several comments and messages from people, and people are saying to me, Kanye admitted he sacrificed his mom. And he didn't do that. It's what you want to hear, right? People who believe this, I made a lot of videos about this. I used to believe it in a different way than I do now, which I'll talk about in a moment here. But it's what you want to hear. He didn't admit to anything. He said she was sacrificed, not by him. He's not saying that.
That's the only person that I serve. My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
And this goes along the same lines as Roseanne. There was a time where Roseanne Barr came out and said, all this Illuminati mind control in Hollywood. And people flipped out because they thought Roseanne was talking as an insider, and she wasn't, right? She just had watched the same videos that we all watch, and she believed them, right? And I believe this is what Kanye's saying here, Ye's saying here, because I don't think he's saying that he had anything to do with it, right? The way that these things were framed in the past, and there's a long list. I may have a list somewhere. I'm not going to find it. Someone put together a list of all the celebrities that lost somebody in a timely fashion before they became really big. And, like I said, is it a bunch of people running the system that is doing this, human sacrifices, or is it some sort of, bizarre demonic thing that happens, like some energetic rite of passage where, I don't know, like some part of the price you have to pay for something like this. That's not done consciously by humans. So, I don't know what I think about it, but this is not confirmation because Kanye's not admitting to something. He's not saying that he had anything to do with it, and so he doesn't know. Like, he's just saying the same things we have said. I used to make all kinds of videos about this, but I've come to believe that there's no way that it's intentional because of just some of the ways that it has happened in the past, right? That, some of it just is definitely organic. People die naturally without, some sort of, like Bill Cosby's son, he was murdered on the side of the road. Like that's something where he was actually murdered. Michael Jordan's father was murdered. But Ye's mom died of, some sort of health-related issue, heart attack or something like that. And then there's other things that are even, more, or you could say that there's no way that was, thought about ahead of time, right? But anyways, I know people flip out over this, and it's just Ye watching the same videos we watch, and coming up with something, based in that and not in any personal experience where he can present evidence to show that, he can back up what he's saying here. Okay, so I want to go to Britney's long, one of my viewers, I guess this is all, there she is doing something here, some sort of gang sign, doing a little dance. This is not her, she's always got to dance a little bit. There she is in some lagoon. She's in French Polynesia. She goes on a lot of vacations for somebody whose only job is to dance crazily on Instagram. But let's go to what she wrote about her drain damage. So one of my viewers sent me a bunch of pictures, which was helpful because I wouldn't have this otherwise. I don't check these things daily, or even maybe sometimes even weekly. Britney Spears wrote this and then deleted it like she often does. And she says this, I must say meditation comes way easier now that I can breathe. I mean, how can you meditate if you can't breathe? When I was younger, like 8 or 9, I had an oxygen machine where you put a mask over your face for 10 minutes every night. During all of my shows for the past 20 years, I had an inhaler backstage. Well, when I went to that place 3 years ago, they took it away. She keeps on talking about this mysterious place. I assume it's some sort of reprogramming rehab center. Let's just say nerve damage and not being able to breathe for the past 3 years has been hard, especially when my own mother and father know enough victim stories, ? 4 of them. Enough victim stories? Well, folks, the truth is not a victim story. The truth is not a victim story. No more truthful thing has ever been said. Truth is a fight for survival. And because I prayed and started telling the truth, that's why my conservatorship ended. And why hasn't she been able to breathe the past 3 years? I don't know. I want to thank my cousin at my aunt's house for sneaking me her inhaler. You mean she couldn't get an inhaler? Like, the world always says, I'm so loved. Wow, I am. With emojis and exclamation points. I'm so happy to share because, as Paris Hilton says, it best, silver lining and caring is sharing. Wow, what an incredible saying. That Paris Hilton's brilliant. Who is this Paris Hilton in her? Is she a philosopher? Damn, ain't that something? I know some people read and look at my Instagram and know I've gone through a lot. My faith in my fans and prayers, I know have saved my life. And then let's go to the next one here. I know that Drew Barrymore, a while back, she loved reading my Instagram. Just hope it's good enough. Anyways, I get it. Honest. I'm not good with the white lies. I'm straight up, so I guess I might defend some people, but it's not my intention. Wow, I got married this year and not sure I was honestly that present because I haven't had any real consciousness in 3 years. She's doesn't have her inhaler. She has nerve damage and brain damage apparently. And she got married and she wasn't that present when she got married because, she's deprived of oxygen. There was a lot of talking and speaking at the party. Not for me, unfortunately, because when you can't breathe, your body can't relax enough to speak. It's been a while for me. I can now. I just hope my family breathes well today! Exclamation points. Dancing saved my life, as bad as it may have been. I did it to live, and to go by my memory of who I was before. Well, my dad told me way back when I get out of that place, not one person is going to believe what I have to say. So don't even try it. But the truth is my ladder to heaven. That is between me, God, and my heart and soul. Honestly, I don't give a flying boop what people think. That was a good boop. So hopefully my throne in heaven is pretty high. There's no thrones in heaven. Like what? Anyways, I heard a lot of smart-ass guys on the radio stations a year back laugh about my situation, laughing at what that girl is going through, and then no supportive words, just silence, just a huge laugh to reveal a joke. I'm shocked that I can give people humor. I really am. She's shocked. I'm stoked that I can give people humor. I really am. Well, I'm going to spend time outside with my dog today. He's a wise soul. Either way, as this beautiful Drew Barrymore says, she loves to read my Instagram, and her freaking adorable Side supporter says her book should be called Stronger Than Yesterday. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, that's a while back, but I don't forget it. I'm thankful now for the gift of life, the breath. So she hasn't been able to breathe, and now we're even more confused than ever. She was in a place, they took her inhaler, she couldn't get another one, and she still had trouble to breathe in, and she got married, and she wasn't very clear-headed or very present at the marriage or the wedding or all of it. And so that's Britney J. Spears. So here's yet another JoJo Magoo gaffe. My wife sent me this one.
Energy Agency recently concluded that our significant climate investment will, quote, help turbocharge turbocharge the emerging global clean energy economy. I was reading their quote. Sorry.
No reason to apologize. So this is internationally. He's international. I don't know where he is. He's in some foreign place. Who cares? But this is almost every time he speaks, there's a gaffe. It was always bad. We've gotten used to it, but damn, right? Come on, JoJo. Jim Cramer rips Disney CEO Bob Chapek, says he's absolutely must be fired.
Go. All right. Disney, if they have ESPN, if we were on ESPN, we would say he's got to be fired.
Boom. If he was on ESPN, that's what he'd say. Like, he's also a Muppet or something, right? Like, that's not a real boy.
That's pretty cut and dried.
You're firing Bob Chapek? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got to fire that MNFer.
Absolutely.
Because?
I felt that he had a couple of years. The team's going downhill. I mean, that was incredible. Last night was really, the team has been going downhill. I had faith. Same way I had faith in Frank Reich in the Colts, and I still do with Frank because he had a winning record.
Yeah, Frank got fired. And they hired somebody with no experience. That's a whole... I'm not getting around to covering that, but that's hilarious if you want to check out the owner of the Colts describing why he hired somebody with zero experience. He's getting mocked all over. I mean, there's, that's with the Kyrie thing and the other stuff that's taken a back seat, but
there is just no doubt that he has to go. I mean, that was just unconscionable. And the quarter itself, the way he handled it.
Yeah, okay. So he needs to be fired according to this Muppet. FTX tapped into customer accounts to fund risky bets, setting up its downfall. FTX chief executive told investors this week that an affiliated trading firm owes the crypto exchange about $10 billion. Crypto exchange FTX lent billions of dollars worth of customer assets to fund risky bets by its affiliated trading company, Alameda Research, setting the stage for the exchange implosion, a person familiar with the matter said. So they went into user accounts and stole their, what they considered safe crypto money or whatever it was. Banks can do this. It's happened before. It happened with was it MF Global or whatever it's called? The guy, Corzine, went into user accounts. Jamie Dimon from Chase went in and said, you owe us money, MNF, go into your user accounts and get the money. And so you think your money's safe, but it's not. They can go in PayPal, they can go in your crypto thing, they can just take your stuff or devalue it, either way. But it happens. I really wanted to show you this earlier, but Dems embraced abortion rights, dodge red wave. Safe abortion is a human right. Like, that's how is it a human right? How do you say that safe abortion is a human right? Because when does life begin for you? I've talked about this. I'm not like right-wing pro-lifers. It's a complicated issue, and the hostility and the anger and the blame and the emotional trauma falls on the mom, the woman who's pregnant. And, it's just not cool. All of it falls on her, making it her choice, right? They want to get rid of these babies, but they don't want to, they want to make it the mom's choice and make her suffer the consequences. And so the whole system's rigged against, women. This is real misogyny. It's a whole thing. I've talked about this in the past. But how do you say it's a human right? This is more New York Post. Voters are done with ex-president. He needs to disappear. And chickens have come home to roost for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania after he stuck his nose in the state's Republican primary process last May against the guidance of most loyal advisors. Many of them once devoted followers say they are done with the former president. And so they're talking about how, they elected the Fetterman. Okay, I'm finally getting to this weird stuff with Madonna. So Madonna comes out. Let's see if we got this. Madonna comes out desperate and old as F, right? I mean, even though she's, done that to her face, she just, she's old, right? You get older. She's older than me. I'm old. She comes out. Let's mute this. And she does this. And just, it's cringy, right? Makes you cringe. And then she sticks those big fake lips. She does that, like what reptilian, like, trying to be. And then she does that. And then she does. And she does that. Oh my God, so cringy, right? And apparently it goes back again. Fans have been freaking out. So that was the first thing. I mean, that was not the first thing, but it was the first of these three latest things. People had already freaked out about what she's doing. And she's getting what she wants, which is attention. But it's the most, sad, pity-based attention. And then there's this. She goes into a dog bowl and licks out of that, right? I don't know what that is there. But, she's just so desperate for any kind of relevancy, even if it's pity, even if it's embarrassment. I mean, it's brutal. And then today, people have been sending me these things. I haven't got to them. I'm glad I waited because now I can just plow through this as quickly as possible. Madonna posted another creepy video after a slew of concerning uploads. This is some weird, I think I have to play the music to this one. Maybe not. So this is some kind of weird Madonna thing. Madonna's hung up on posting disturbing videos. The Like a Virgin songstress took to Instagram stories on Friday to share yet another creepy clip. This time, she can be seen staring blankly at the camera inside a dark car while her 1992 song Waiting plays. She plays her own music. This is the image here. But, this is Madam Expiration Date. She's expired, and, she's a ghoul out there doing anything to breathe life into her, her already dead self. Dems embraced abortion rights like never before, and it paid off. Yeah, well, is it paying off, though? Like, this is the picture here. I mean, just, I was talking about this before, whatever. Megan Fox shares revealing behind-the-scenes photos from transformation into Princess Zelda. That's just weird. How's that rap career going, bro? I don't even know what this is about here. There they are again. Look at that sword. Look at these elves. Okay, just one brief thing in closing here, and I don't know why I'm even bother because the people I'm addressing don't have the capacity to accept this is about them. Somebody sent me a message yesterday. I'm not going to read the message. But the message basically said that the person had sent me and other people irrefutable evidence that he or she was being attacked by archons, which is some kind of demons talked about. I think it's a David Icke thing. I think it was two other truthers. There was irrefutable evidence sent to us, and we didn't do anything about it. And now, like, he suffered some ways, and it's all my fault. And he wants nothing to do with me. And I didn't know what he was talking about, right? Because people send me crazy stuff all the time. and I don't read it, right? I very seldom read it. And if I do, it's because it's like humorous to me because it's some crazy person writing. And so if you send things that sound crazy to a stranger, you're not going to get the response. Like, we deal with this all the time. People who are, have some sort of social media following. People write me long, crazy paragraphs of stuff. I don't read it, right? I told you I don't read long comments. I can't. You might think I need to hear it, and I don't think so. I'm not. I read short comments. I scan them. I've gotten probably 1 million comments over the years, and then so many messages, right? But this person was under the impression that I actually were reading word for word everything he was sending to me, and he should have known based on the fact that it was from an account that it was the first message I received from that account. And so I must have banned him multiple times, and yet he's still blaming me for not fighting off his archons. And, does anybody think that I have the ability to fight off demons out there? Does anybody think that I have that ability to, that I'm a demon fighter and that, based on everything I present here, if you're fighting demons, you guys should write me long, descriptive messages about what your needs are, and I'm going to somehow fight the demons off for you. Does anybody think that, right? Does anybody think I'm a caring, nice person that's concerned about your issues, right? There was one time a young woman wrote to me. She said, I'm an 18-year-old girl, and I believe my boyfriend's possessed by a demon, and I'd like to talk to you about it. Or she said, are you interested in talking to me about it? And I said, I didn't say it, but I said in my mind, not at all. I just, blocked the person, whatever, right? And that wasn't a bad one. But people dump things on me all the time, filled with crazy stuff, thinking I have the ability to do something about it and asking me to pray, which is okay. You can always ask me to pray about something. Very limited amount of information. You just say, can you please pray for me? And that'll be enough because, it is what it is. But I'm not some great prayer, right? I mean, you can ask for other people's prayers. I mean, I'm completely open to something like that. Leave a comment saying, I'm going through something. Please pray for me. You don't have to be all that specific. And, because you're just presenting it, more people presenting it to God. But that's, I'm not gifted prayer and I don't have any skills. I have the Sahaj Marg system, which has worked for me. Of course, there's the problem with the current master of the system and the organization. I mean, that all sucks. If you guys listen to my Journey series, I got another one coming up. Maybe I'm going to put it out tomorrow. I don't know. It's a bummer what I'm going through with that, but there's, the system still works. That's what I do. I don't know if it'll work for you, but that's what I do. Other than that, I don't have anything for you. I don't have any secrets. I don't have any, techniques. I don't have anything that can help you, right? And I don't, I'm not a caring person that wants to hear some crazy person rant on about things and try to make sense of whatever they're saying, right? It comes across as crazy, and I'm saying this like some crazy people are going to go, oh yeah, that's me. No, they're not. They're never going to do that, right? People dump long paragraphs, long letters type comments and messages on me and other people on the internet, and nobody's reading them, right? You have to respect the person that you're writing to, understand the kind of personality they have, and you should approach them and say, I have some issues. Are you willing to listen to them? And you should put down what your expectations are. And if your expectations are that I'm going to help you in some way, then those are bad expectations. For one, that's not what I do here. I present information. This is what I do. This is a service I provide. I make videos. This is all I do. I'm not offering anything else. I'm not offering to help you in any way or show you my concern or be a sympathetic ear. Like I just don't have, I'd be a therapist. I have a master's degree in counseling. If I wanted to do that shit, if I want to listen to crazy people, I'd go do that job I'm trained for, right? Like, I'd rather speak than listen. I'd rather, sit here by myself with just my one dog today. The other one must be out in the other room. and just talk to myself into a microphone. And, you know, for some reason, some people find it interesting and or funny. And, you know, that's all I can do. This is what I'm offering you all. This is my service. This is my service to God. Anything above and beyond that, I'm not interested in. I don't have the time and whatever it might be. You know, and you should approach that with everybody. Don't drop long letters, long explanations to people. Just, you know, see if they're ready to receive it, right? Because it's off-putting. It doesn't help your case. And, you know, I mean, it seems kind of selfish and self-involved, and it shows that you're not really listening to me or who I am, right? It's very easy to see the kind of person I am and, you know, the way I approach this. And I'm not offering any sort of help services. And, you know, I briefly started to counsel people. And that just, you know, it sucked again. I mean, from this YouTube channel, people wanted me to counsel them and, you know, mentor them. And, you know, I don't dig it. I'm not into it, right? You know, like I said, I could do this professionally. I mean, you know, in terms of my master's degree in counseling, and I have experience in counseling. And I don't think I'd ever do that again, at least not on a professional level. You know, maybe I can apply some of the things I learned or know, but I don't even really believe in that as a model. I believe in the Heartfulness, the Sahaj Marg transmission and cleaning as a way that people can work towards transforming oneself. But it doesn't work for everybody because everyone doesn't work at it, or they're not sensitive enough or whatever. Other than that, I don't have any answers, right? But again, just so you know, I'm not a demon fighter. I don't have any, you know, skills. You know, I don't have any, you know, I'm not a vampire slayer. I don't, you know, I make videos that mock people on the internet, right? I can make fun of Fetterman, like I can make fun of a vampire or a ghoul. I don't know how to defeat them, right? You know, I don't have any special techniques or anything like that, right? And I mean, the kind of comments I most like to receive are ones where people are sending in information, like the woman who sent the Britney Spears thing to me. You know, it was done in a way that was easy for me to transfer it into a video. She saved something that I normally wouldn't have seen. You know, I don't care if I mean, it's not some big loss if I didn't cover that. But people who send me relevant topics and help take some of the burden off of me in terms of research, find interesting things, understand the kind of videos I make, you know, that's very helpful. The rest, not so much. Okay, so that's only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely born from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.